Is this the beginning of the end for NAR, the National Association of Realtors? And, if not the beginning of the end, is this the beginning of, not the downfall, but just a drastic decrease in size for NAR, the National Association of Realtors? We just found that this week, the first state association, the Alabama Association of Realtors, an association I'm very familiar with. I know a lot of people there. It was honestly one of the first places that I spoke at way back at the beginning of my career. So I know a lot of the people there, great people. It's actually, believe it or not, it's one of my favorite places to actually go to. I think a lot of people find that surprising, but I just think it's good people. But they have come out and they have written a letter on behalf of their members to NAR, to the CEO of NAR, and basically asked for the decoupling of associations, meaning that right now in the real estate world, you have to join both the local, the state, and the National Association of Realtors. And a lot of agents, a lot of brokers out there are feeling like that just it's not worth it, and that we shouldn't have to be forced. I think that there are people who want to be a part of NAR. There are people who don't want to. And I think the issue with people is the forcing, okay? I've been getting really a bad rap lately. I just talked about this at our advance that we had where, a lot of people think that I'm anti-NAR. I'm not. I'm just about things being done right. I said at our advance that, status quo is just not acceptable. And in a world where, real estate people just lost a lawsuit and there's all this push for decoupling of commissions, it's kind of interesting that now the word that we're using when it comes to the National Association is a decoupling. And, giving people choice, which I'm always kind of for that. If you're going to spend someone else's money, meaning this is not money that comes from overall or comes from an association or it's a volunteer organization or one of those things, they have to actually pay. And in some cases, there are people who have limited access to their local MLS and other things if they are not a part of the organization, the National Association of Realtors, and I don't think that's right. I think that's wrong, and I'd love to hear what you guys think. I'd love for you to comment below, but I want to be very clear before I move forward here. I am not saying that I want the disbandment or the dismemberment of NAR. I'm saying that people should have choice. There's a reason why so many other national organizations do not require membership into their board, and they generally have about 10 to 13% of their overall population in their industry that join, and NAR has almost 90%. It's because people don't have choice. And it's not that I want to see them shrink or I want to see whatever, but I don't think you can spend other people's money if they don't want to join. I don't think that you need to be a part of NAR in order to, work locally with your clients. I don't think you need to be a member of NAR in order to have access to your MLS and serve your clients. And by the way, we see examples of this all over the place. Like, New York, in New York City, they're not members of NAR at all for the most part. And yet they're able to serve their clients. And so this letter went out to Nakia Wright, and I hope that I'm saying her name correctly. If I'm wrong, somebody can tell me below. Just don't be snarky about it. I'm not doing it intentionally. But I think her name is Nakia Wright, the CEO of NAR, and Alabama said that they surveyed their members and that they're basically getting numerous requests about more flexibility, that they're getting complaints off the hook from their membership, and that ultimately they have to do what's right for their membership, okay? And they said, while there's loyalty to the realtor organization between all three levels, local, state, and national, there's a growing and vocal desire for greater choice and flexibility in deciding where members spend their hard-earned membership dues and dollars, which I think makes complete sense, to be honest. They wrote a letter to her. This was first reported by Housing Wire. They let everybody know they've addressed these concerns, that they've communicated with NAR, that they're waiting for a response. And I don't think NAR is going to budge on this, to be completely honest. I think that they'd be giving up a huge amount of income. They're now on the hook. When you look at this settlement that they have, they're on the hook for hundreds of millions of dollars. And part of, why they're able to do that and how they're planning to do it is the size of their membership. And it's been interesting the last month. I saw NAR came out with a statement saying that they have not dropped membership. They haven't lost any members. They've actually grown. And I just thought that was so ridiculous because renewals are up in January. So there's no way that you could drop membership. You won't know until January, February if you've lost membership or not. And I think it's short-sighted to think that you're not going to lose membership. There's absolutely going to be a drop in membership, not only the number of people who leave the industry, but also the people who just choose and they're angry. I mean, I'm out there doing it every day, guys. I'm talking to agents every day. I'm talking to brokers every day, and they're not thrilled. They're not happy, and they don't, the argument that I make and a lot of people make is they talk about advocacy, and they talk about, the things that are done in D.C. And it's tough to make that point when they just lost on such a huge case. It's tough to make the case that is worth it right now. And so Alabama went on to say, consumers require and desire greater choice in making decisions about real estate transactions. Our members have requested the same flexibility in choosing which associations they decide to join. NAR did release a statement, and they said, like other national membership organizations, NAR has an integrated membership model which empowers realtors and the consumers they serve with access to localized resources and services while also benefiting from a national voice, a unified advocacy platform with a single code of ethics. It always cracks me up when they point back to this code of ethics because I don't think that it's as powerful as they think it is, and I don't think that people become more ethical once they join NAR. You're either ethical or you're not, and you can join NAR and you're still not ethical. Whether you have a specific code of ethics or not, I don't think most agents care one bit about that. They went into specifically how NAR has benefited how Alabama has benefited. In Alabama, this is how NAR was able to secure landmark wins for more than 18,000 Alabama realtors, including a favorable decision in the Alabama eviction moratorium case at the U.S. Supreme Court level. And by the way, I don't think they're wrong. I think there is a lot of advocacy that happens that is very powerful. I just think that when you put the two up against each other, that doesn't mean that people can be forced to be a part of your organization by saying that we did something, good for you. Alabama went on to note that NAR is already facing a lawsuit from agents and brokers in Michigan. There's a lawsuit that was brought from Michigan by these agents and brokers that basically, said the same thing, that they called it, an antitrust lawsuit and said that you can't force us to be a part of your organization if we don't want to be a part of your organization. And they talked about the intertwining of all these different local and national and MLSs and all these things that, shouldn't operate that way. It's a monopoly. Like, we should choose who we want to join, what benefits our business. And we shouldn't, and their point is that they shouldn't be held back from using a certain MLS or a certain, that they're a member of simply because they're not a member of another thing. And when you think about it, that's really not right. That's really not fair. Alabama goes on to say, but there's also a risk in doing nothing from a member sentiment. In order to telling NAR, like, doing nothing is not good either. From a legal standpoint, as more lawsuits will emerge, challenging the current organization, I mean, they're basically saying, hey, we don't want to go to a lawsuit on this. We're trying to just write you nicely, but you're going to get more lawsuits. And I got to be honest, guys, just being in this industry right now, Alabama's doing it nicely and writing a letter. I think there's going, from the growing sentiment from members, there's going to be more states that are going to step up and not only write letters, but are going to file lawsuits and say, we don't have to be a part of this. We have to listen to our members before they, decide not to be a part of us. Like, we have to look out for ourselves locally, not just what it is that you want nationally. So they said, we hope that you'll consider this request with the dues cycle. This is what I was just talking about. Rapidly approaching. In other words, to say that you haven't lost members is makes no sense because the dues aren't due until January, okay? And so there's a lot of stuff to consider here, but at the end of the day, I think this is a real thing. And, when you look at everything that's gone on and the attacks on NAR and the lawsuits and all that kind of stuff, I think the thing that's going to have the greatest impact is actually going to come from within. It's actually going to be the membership. Who are now stepping up, and I think a lot of them feel like, we're going to pay you all this. Well, you didn't defend us. And we can go back and forth all day long, and I've got my feelings on that. I'm aware that NAR really had no choice, that, the attorneys are the bad guys here. Like, they're the ones that litigated them into submission. They were just going to keep on. I just had at our advance, I talked to, my buddy Nick Bailey, who was the CEO of RE/MAX. And he talked about how, this was going on for 4 years, that these attorneys were trying to litigate the industry into submission, and how, Remax, a publicly traded company, had already spent $26 million defending, and it was just going to go on and on and on. And NAR is and was in the exact same position. And so I do understand, I really do. I put out an Instagram reel the other day, and everybody's jumping on there, and they're going, "That's right, down with NAR," and they think that I'm like, on that train. And I am not saying I think NAR should go away. I'm not saying I hope NAR goes away. I'm looking at this from the standpoint of reality and saying, yeah, they're going to lose a lot of members. And there is a growing sentiment within our industry that does not look good for them. That there's a lot of angry people who don't want to pay them anymore, and that's a reality. And so if it doesn't get addressed, if they don't do it in a friendly manner, you're going to see more lawsuits. Like, that's absolutely, you're already seeing it within the agent broker community. You're going to see it from states. You're going to see it from brands and brokers. And, that future does not look super bright. And so it's going to be interesting to see where that goes. And again, you don't have to agree with it to know that that's where it's going. It's just like the broker-to-broker compensation thing. Like, I think that's going away. Doesn't mean that I think it's the right thing or that it was done in the right spirit, but it means that it's going away. And so I can separate myself from what I think should happen and what's actually going to happen. You just, some of us just got to put our big boy pants on and realize that that's a reality. So this is interesting news. We'll have more coming here. I'll probably talk about this on our next podcast as well. But I would love to hear what you guys think. I'd love to hear what the sentiment is in your area. I'd love to know what your sentiment is. I'd love you to comment below and just kind of tell me what you're seeing in your area and what you think about this. Do you think, I think we all agree that, the advocacy is important. I do think that that's important. They're one of either the number one or number two lobbying groups in the country. But that didn't really show through in this last effort. The DOJ does not seem to be responding to that. And so if we're going to say that that's one of the major, the number one reasons to have them, but then it didn't do anything in one of the biggest places where we needed them, I kind of understand some of the sentiment from the agents and brokers that are out there that are angry. So I'd love to hear what you think, though. Like, do you think that do you think you're going to renew? Are you not going to renew? Do you think you should have to, just for the sake of advocacy and lobbying? Do you think you shouldn't have to? Let's hear what you think, guys. Comment below. Let me know. Make sure you're subscribed on here, and I'm looking forward to reading your comments.